Okay, so I'm Colleen. Today we are going to learn how to make a slab plate. Just a small hand-built slab plate. You've already made your slab. That's an even 3/8 of an inch thickness, and it's nice and smooth, and it's a beautiful slab, and it's on a piece of cloth so that it's not sticking to your board. So we're going to want to decide what shape we want to make our plate. And it can be any shape you want. It can have curvy sides. You can have just a regular rectangle or a square, as long as it's the size that I indicated in the assignment. So I'm gonna eyeball this because I'm so good at eyeballing things, and I'm going to cut this out. This is not going to be completely symmetrical. I'm not so much a fan of that. But if you want to make a specific shape, you can make a paper template and trace around that to make a specific shape so you don't have to do it by eye. So. So there is a size requirement on this project, so make sure you're not cutting it too small. So this, at this point, since it's on this nice hard surface, I'm going to do a little pre-finishing on that top edge, because that's a really sharp square edge, and once we fire that, it's going to be pretty unpleasant to use as a plate if it's that sharp. So you can use your sponge, or you can use what's called a chamois. It's just a little piece of leather, and you can smooth those edges pretty easily. So with the sponge, you're just going to kind of just go over it a couple times just to soften that edge, make it just slightly rounded. The same thing works with the chamois, and that's what I'm used to using, so I'm just going to do it with that. Smooth, smooth, smooth. All the way around. Okay, so once you've got that, then I'm going to flip this over again, and this is going to be the bottom of my plate. So I'm going to do another piece of cloth. Sure it's not wrinkled. I think that's good. I'm going to flip it. It's usually good to flip things you're making with a slab, especially plates or tiles. The more you bend them, the clay gets kind of what's called a plastic memory. If you bent it and then flatten it out again, sometimes when it dries, it will try to follow that a little bit. So it may warp a little bit back into that curvy shape. So if you can keep them flat as much as possible, that's to your advantage. Because things, as they dry, the clay shrinks, and it does tend to do some warping and other unpleasant things that it might do. So this is going to be the top of my plate now, and I'm going to pre-finish that top again. You can use your sponge, a little damp sponge, or a little damp chamois, and I'm going to do that. I'm just going to smooth that a little bit. It's easy to do at this stage because it is flat and it's got the board behind it, so it's not going to distort. Smooth one more side. Now if you're just making a tile, this could be done, but we're going to make a little plate, so we want some kind of a raised rim around it. And an easy way to do that is to put something under that to support it. And what we're going to use is another handy piece of cloth. So you can get something, you can use paper towel rolled up, just a regular towel rolled up, or just a piece of cloth. And I'm going to put that under here. Easy to lift this up because, again, it's on that handy piece of cloth that I put there. So I'm going to tuck that underneath there to raise that up a little bit. And just going to see how that works. And again on the other side. This is only one of many ways to make a little plate. You could also add a coil on the underside if you want it raised up above the table. And this is pretty easy. And you can adjust how high you want that rim by, of course, having a thicker roll of stuff underneath it. You were wondering what I was going to do at the end, but yes. This is it. Got some little coil of stuff, of cloth. I can put that in there and tuck that underneath. Just have to keep turning this. I'm not so ambidextrous that I can do this in all directions. Up, tuck that underneath there. This is a pretty simple way of doing a little plate, and you can play with different shapes. If you've got really curvy edges, you may have to try a couple different scenarios until you get something that you like how it looks. And so I'm going to adjust that rim just a little more. And so at this point, this clay is super, super soft. And it's going to define that flat part of it a little bit because I like a little more definition. So that is pretty much it. Now you will have to leave this uncovered for a while to let it start to stiffen up. Because right now it is very, very soft. So I would leave this for a couple hours probably and then come back and check on it. For the next stage on this, we're going to be decorating this with some decorating materials, a decorating material called Slab. And that needs to be put onto the clay when it is at the leather hard stage. So you don't want this to get dry all the way to bone dry. You want it to get to the leather hard stage. At that point you can wrap it completely in some plastic and keep it at that stage until you're ready to decorate, or you can decorate it right away when it gets to that stage. Here is what I am talking about. So right now, your clay slab, here. Right now, your clay slab was very, very soft. Remember, we just cut it out, and this is the moist clay right out of the bag. And it won't hold a shape very well. If I take these supports out, it's just gonna flop back down. So we're gonna dry it a little bit to stiffen it up. And when we get it to what we call leather hard stage, it will be a little more stiff. So we don't want it to be dry. You'll know that it's dry when it starts to change color. And we don't want it to be floppy like this. So you can see this will hold its shape a little bit. and that's what we want exactly. And leather hard state is when it feels a little bit like cheddar cheese. You've all felt cheddar cheese. Cheddar cheese, if you make a slice of cheddar cheese, you can bend it a little bit. You can't bend it completely in half, it'll probably crack. But you can bend it a little bit, you can still move it around a bit. And if you press your finger into it, if you press your finger into it, you can leave little dents. But it is stiff enough to hold its shape. So at this stage, leather hard stage is something you can still work with the clay. You can still join two pieces of leather hard clay together by scoring and slipping, and we will be able to decorate our plate when it's leather hard stage. If it gets dry, totally dry, you'll have to start completely over to make another plate to get the decorating part of this project done. So make sure it's leather hard and not dry. I think that's all for now. So once it's to the leather hard stage, you can wrap it and it'll stay at that state until you're ready to decorate. So thank you very much, and that is how to make a little plate.